Anthony Richardson gets the start week 1 against the Bills. He got that news just minutes before stepping on the field for practice on Thursday morning. And as Colts fans, that's something that should excite all of us. Okay, now let's roll through what happened in training camp practice today. First, with the inactives, of course, we have Julian Blackman, Mo Alley Cox, Jelani Woods, DeForest Buckner, Kenny Moore, Rodney Thomas, Deion Jackson, and Braden Smith. And of course, as always, Jonathan Taylor wasn't there, still excused, but it is said that he is expected to be back at practice next week. We'll talk about that a little later, okay? Because where we want to start, of course, it's Anthony Richardson, okay? Like I said, he was told minutes before practice that he was getting the start against the Bills on Saturday. And that's important because the Bills are playing a lot of their starters, just not Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, basically. So going up against one of the NFL's best defenses in his first start is going to be not only a great experience for him and to be able to get a quarter's worth of reps against one of the best defenses in the NFL, but it's going to give all of us Colts fans and really the football world. Anthony Richardson's been such a hot topic because he's such a freak athlete that I think everybody right now is curious how he's going to look. And going up against the Bills defense is going to be quite the experience for all of us. But when you look at training camp practice, what happened today? Once again, Richardson and Minshew are switching sides, and Richardson practiced with the first team, which you have to expect since he's starting the game. He was going to get this practice with the first team either way today. All in all, Richardson kind of had a rough day, honestly. He ended up being 5 for 12 passing, although he did make a really nice back shoulder throw to Alec Pierce, and he also hit Michael Pittman Jr. for about a 15-yard touchdown in 7-on-7 period. So with the day he had, getting the news that he's starting, and then he had a bit of a rough day. I heard that he was overthrowing balls and that some of the throws underneath, he was throwing them too hard and guys couldn't hold on to him. I'm chalking today's practice up as him being amped up. He's a young guy. There's some maturity that needs to happen, of course. That happens for all of us in life. And, being able to, hone in his focus is a part of that maturity. And so that's something he's going to have to work on. So again, I'm chalking today up as him just, a little bit less focused because of the news that he got right before practice. Okay, so then you look over at what Gardner Minshew did, and Gardner Minshew, just like pretty much every other day of practice, had a fairly solid day. So when you go look at his numbers, he was 9 for 12 passing, really solid day as always. But I did see that most of his completions were within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Now, good news, and it kind of shows you how the Colts are going to use some of their personnel here. Josh Downs had 4 catches on the second team with Gardner Minshew. And again, most of Minshew's passes were within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. So they're trying to get the ball in Josh Downs' hands quickly and let him go and make the plays. His speed in the middle of the field and his yards after catch playmaker ability is what they're trying to take advantage of. And I think that's something that should have been expected in Shane Steichen's offense and the way that works. They used running backs for it for the most part in Philadelphia. But when you have guys like Isaiah McKenzie and Josh Downs both on the roster, and at this point we're very limited on running backs, so using Josh Downs and getting the ball in his hands and letting him make plays is a great move. And I as a Colts fan, I love hearing that. I think Josh Downs is immensely talented. I think we need to get the ball in his hands as much as we possibly can, whether it's running or passing. So going into the game this weekend, it looks like the starting lineup is going to end up being Anthony Richardson, Evan Hull, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Isaiah McKenzie, Kylan Granson, Bernard Raymond, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, and Blake Freeland at right tackle, with Braden Smith being out for a little while. And the things I want to talk about there before we move on to defense, first of all, the rookie, Evan Hull. Just like Anthony Richardson, we want to see what this guy's about. There's been so much hype about him this training camp. So I'm really excited to see him get the start against this Bills defense and see what can he do in live action. And another name I'm really excited to see in the starting lineup is Kylan Granson. If you watched the video earlier, he's somebody that I think could be one of the breakout candidates for the Colts this season. And if you haven't watched that video, then as soon as this one's done, make sure you go check that one out and let me know what you think about that one. But Kylan Granson really, I think, could show a lot of people that the undersized tight end from SMU can make a name for himself in the NFL, man. There's so much talent there. And I think this is going to be the year he's able to put it together. So it's exciting to see him get himself into the starting lineup, at least for the first preseason game. Okay, so let's look at a couple things with the defense. Okay, Dallas Flowers and DJ Baker were both making plays on the ball today and are going to continue with the starters going into preseason week one. You know, with all the injuries in the secondary and with these guys stepping up and making plays in training camp, they earn this. So as long as they do well throughout this preseason and the rest of training camp, you know, these could be the guys that are in the starting lineup going into the season. So what they do this upcoming Saturday is probably going to hold a lot of weight into what happens going forward. You know, if one of these guys has a shaky outing, then we could see Juju Brents get into the starting lineup in next week's practices. So again, going to be watching the cornerback position closely in the preseason game. And then another note in the secondary is Nick Cross and Trevor Dimbo going to be getting the starting nod for the defense going into the game Saturday, with Julian Blackmon and Rodney Thomas still nursing their injuries. Okay, but what I'm really looking for on the defense is how good the pass rush can be. Okay, today in practice, Dio Dangbo and Gernard Avery were getting after it and winning their reps. Now, it should be noted, today's practice was no pads. They went a little easy. You know, ever since they started putting pads on, it's been full pads every single day. So today they backed off a little bit, went no pads for today. So these pass rush reps, you know, you take that with a grain of salt. And I am. That's why I'm letting you know you need to take it with a grain of salt. There's not full contact. But from what I heard, Dio, his get off right now is elite level stuff. You know, even Robert Mathis on Twitter put out a video clip earlier today showing Dio getting off the edge super quick, being able to get around Bernard Raymond. And if Robert Mathis is hyped up about the pass rush, then I'm going to be hyped up about the pass rush. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens Saturday, because if we can get a good pass rush, right, you think about the linebackers on this team, you think about who we have in the middle with DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart. If we get a pass rush, we're going to have one of the nastiest front sevens in all of football. And as somebody who played defensive football, I can't tell you how much I just want the Colts to be one of the top defenses, if not the top defense, year after year after year after year. If that's what the Colts could be known for, that would be fantastic. Okay. So that pretty much finishes it up. You know, I do want to mention Jonathan Taylor. We kind of mentioned it at the beginning of the video, how he's going to be back at practice. That is according to coach. And if coach is going to say that to the media, I assume he knows something, right? There's been some communication that Jonathan Taylor is going to be back at practice. And it feels like, you know, even though there's no timetable on him getting back on the field after not signing Kareem Hunt, it feels like keeping Jonathan Taylor is part of the plan, you know, at least for the moment. You know, the Colts are super thin at running back. So many guys getting injured. They just signed Justin Huntley. He was a guy that spent some time with Shane Steichen in Philadelphia. So he kind of knows what to expect. And it feels like, you know, strategic move, bring in somebody that knows the system, since we're going into week one of the preseason. The install is already done. You got to get somebody that knows the system, can come in, figure it out real quick and get in there. So it'll be interesting to see how the whole running back thing shakes out. But for the moment, seems like they're intent on keeping Jonathan Taylor. And the fact that he's going to be coming back makes me wonder if maybe they're moving forward on contract talks, and maybe, you know, one way is giving way to another, or at least maybe there was a good faith business move that happened. Like, hey, we're willing to stretch it out to this. What would you say there? What can we figure out? Let's try to figure it out. So, you know, we're going to keep updating it. You know, I kind of thought we were in a place where there was no way Jonathan Taylor was ever going to play for us again. But the fact that he's going to be back at practice next week gives me hope for what the future is with Jonathan Taylor and the Colts. But this has been the training camp update for practice 10 of training camp. The next thing that happens is the preseason game against the Bills. And then next week, we're going to have training camp practices on Tuesday, which is going to be the last Colt versus Colt practice of training camp. And then the last two practices of training camp are going to be the joint practices against the Bears on Wednesday and Thursday. And of course, we're going to have more training camp updates when that happens, especially for joint practices. Those should be good ones. And what we have for you tomorrow is going to be the preview for the Colts Bills preseason game. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you know when that video comes out. And until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Go Colts.